Jujutsu Kaisen has revealed Sukuna was not only the king of curses, but was worshipped as a deity. Chapter 219 has showcased a glimpse of Sukuna's full power at 20 fingers. And it's not looking good for Gojo and the others. Yorozu's fight with Sukuna proves he can achieve the impossible since he is above the human realm, destroying a substance that goes beyond physics. But before we can fathom his overwhelming strength, we can see it manifest right in front of our eyes. In the Heian era, Sukuna was feared by everyone, even being prayed to, offered sacrifices, and the Imperials were forced to have a peaceful relationship with him.
Sensational.
Now, to preface his current fight, Yorozu isn't even weak. Sukuna just makes it look that way, as chapter 218 clearly states that she did not lack any expertise or power compared to sorcerers of the Heian era, which was the prime of Jujutsu. Gege Akatami has set up Yorozu as one of the strongest sorcerers we have seen thus far, but her love means absolutely nothing to Sukuna. But what if I told you Sukuna has tamed every single Shikigami? That includes Mahoraga, the Shikigami that hasn't been tamed or commanded in the history of the entire Zenin family, crossing the span of hundreds of years. Sukuna is using the technique to its full potential, thus proving why SATORU freaking Gojo said that this technique was capable of killing a 6 eyes and limitless user 400 years ago. As Sukuna now flexes 2 new broken animals, that changes the entire landscape of how Sukuna vs SATORU Gojo's final fight of this manga would go down. Why, you may ask? Well, the new Shikigami named Madoka is busted. This is a summon with the rarest form of curse energy, reverse curse technique. It can heal not only itself, but also its wielder. Jeez, this would have been really convenient for Megumi, wouldn't it? I don't know. Remember in chapter 117 when he was about to die, or against Reggie in chapter 173 when he fell unconscious, or even in chapter 59, I'm just saying. All of this highlights the major difference of Sukuna's understanding of curse energy to a boy he referred to as a wasted treasure. The most broken ability of Madoka is that it can completely erase the curse energy imbued in any curse technique. According to Gojo, if 10 Shadows is really on par with him, then the main instrument and defining power in their clash is this dare, because this will allow Sukuna to nullify Gojo's Limitless, the ability that makes him immune to all attacks automatically. And yes, Gojo has his own reverse curse technique, which he unlocked on the verge of death thanks to Toji. He uses this ability automatically to repair his brain from getting fried by the force of his constantly running limitless technique. However, we have never seen Gojo project reverse curse energy to heal others, making us conclude that he can only use it for himself for now. This showcases that at least in this category, we can say for a fact that Sukuna scales above so far, because he can heal not only himself, but now has a Shikigami that can spam reverse curse technique. And may I remind you, he is still missing 5 fingers?
See, now that's some bullshit.
Speaking of which, Sukuna gave Yorozu no time to breathe and called upon the new 9th Shikigami, Piercing Bull. By nullifying her curse energy, he totally squashed Yorozu, as the bull's power is directly proportional to the distance it covers. This results in Yorozu flying off like Team Rocket again, as Sukuna is testing all of his abilities. He deliberately created Shikigami in unstable forms so that they become indestructible. This means Sukuna will never permanently lose them. By being more akin to literal shadows, decrease their attack power. However, Sukuna being Sukuna, fueled them with his own insane curse energy output, increasing the range of 10 shadows by a huge margin. But wait, there's more. Sukuna summoned Mahoraga, the 8-handled wheel. This wheel gives Mahoraga the ability to adapt to any and all phenomena. It means that if it is injured by a particular attack, the 8-handled wheel will turn, allowing it to adapt, and if the opponent uses that same technique again, Mahoraga can counter it. And now Sukuna has enhanced it with his own ability, so that means Sukuna is practically invincible. Megumi, this is embarrassing, bruh. You weren't using maybe only 1% potential of this bloody technique.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Now you may be wondering, how did Sukuna tame Mahoraga, ABD? Well, this is why you should have the notification bell on, you silly willy. And make sure you share your curse energy by smashing the like button. Remember, in chapter 119, we can see Sukuna carrying Mahoraga's wheel, and him summoning it in chapter 218 hints that he had accomplished an impossible feat. But that's not when Sukuna tamed him. In the same chapter, Sukuna threw the wheel to break it, and in chapter 117, we learn the laws of 10 Shadows exorcism. The summoning ritual for the Shikigami can be performed around multiple people. However, exercising the Shikigami with help means you nullify and forfeit the idea to tame them after defeating them. Since Megumi forced Haruta to take part in the ritual, the exorcism was null and void, even without Sukuna's intervention, which means neither Sukuna nor Megumi obtained Mahoraga in Shibuya. Thus, Sukuna tamed Mahoraga off-screen after his bath, as there was an undefined time between that and his appearance to fight Yorozu. So, yeah, you just heard that right. Sukuna tamed a beast that no 10 Shadows user did in the entire history of Jujutsu, which spans thousands of years, in a few mere minutes.
No way!
He's way too OP. To combat Sukuna's strength, Yorozu states in chapter 218 that she adapted her technique to the likes of insects. Gege perfectly plays into the metaphor of Sukuna's philosophy that no matter what era, these flies and insects keep trying to defy his dominance, but always fail. Just like Yuji Itadori, who lacks an innate talent, Yorozu struggled with inadequacy. Her technique lacked efficiency, which forced her into getting cornered many times. So to break out of her chains, Yorozu studied insects, where she realized that they had a built-in mechanism which allowed them to lift weights several hundred times their own, as well as exert force and speed despite their puny size. Hence, she saw a light of hope and concluded that creating an armor resembling insect bodies is the ultimate form of her construction technique. In parallel, her obsession with Sukuna is the likes of Yuji Itadori never giving up to take him down. Sukuna hates when flies try to cling onto life, so he relishes in their pain and suffering, much like making fun of Itadori's face matching the statue of Harima. If you haven't noticed by now, every ancient sorcerer has an obsession. Ryu had that obsession with tasting something sweet, Kashima has an addiction wanting to fight a worthy opponent that he can use his technique on, and that's Sukuna. Yorozu has an obsession with love, and Itadori has an obsession with giving people a good death and wanting to defeat Sukuna. But with this obsession comes suffering. So similarly, Sukuna mocks Yorozu by stating, "It seems like you're not worth using shrine. Is that all you got for your love?" Bruh, the dude even turned into the pinnacle of power in all of the animeverse. Anya! So we all know that Nanami and SATORU GOJO told us that being a sorcerer means you have to have a few screws loose. But Yorozu over here, she takes that idea to the extreme, as she tells Sukuna to cut her up to see the love buried in her flesh.
Are you dumb?
She claimed that she still had more to teach Sukuna about love, and that with such absolute strength, he must be lonely, which goes back to their story in the Heian era 1000 years ago. In chapter 219, we see Gege's inspiration for Ryumen Sukuna's character manifest from Japanese mythology, as he was known as a deity in real life too. In the same way, Sukuna in Jujutsu Kaisen's Heian era is also worshipped worshipped by humans to pacify him, whilst ironically referring to him as a monster at the same time. This was in order to not attract devastation at his hand. The villagers offered Sukuna sacrifices and meals. Funnily enough, people were also praying to him for a bountiful harvest of rice. Therefore, it's clear that Sukuna's god complex over the course of Jujutsu Kaisen isn't ill-founded, and he ruled over everyone freely by becoming the epitome of power in that prime era. This is depicted with chapter 219 declaring that he killed the 5 generals of the Fujiwara clan, which we know in fact were the ruling clan and the emperors of that time. The story itself referred to Sukuna holding the rightful title throughout the heaven and earth. He alone is the honored one. However, Sukuna had a contemporary, ladies and gentlemen, when it came to his tendency to create massive destruction. And it was none other than this crazy ass little bitch, Yorozu. If it wasn't very obvious from her marriage proposal to Sukuna about pillaging at least 3 villages and eating monkey brains, Yorozu was a loose cannon barbarian. And just to have some snacks from the festival, she ended up encountering Sukuna chilling out. This is where her love story with him began, as she ran out to hug him. It was love at first sight. Well, no, it was love at first slash, bitch. Yep, she didn't even realize when she was cut up by Sukuna and instantly died. So what did we learn from this? Well, simping will end up badly.
Simp for me, daddy.
No.
Patriot.
But even her death didn't stop Yorozu from delivering cringe. She declares that I want to hog the loneliness. Your loneliness is only mine. The one that will kill you is me.
Well, that went well.
Words that didn't age well at all, as she suffered the same fate 1,000 years later.
Emotional damage.
This was our first glimpse of Sukuna in his prime with 20 fingers. He was able to kill a special grade sorcerer in one hit without them even realizing that they are already dead. And he achieved this without lifting a finger, which proves that Sukuna is only having fun in the modern era to test the 10 Shadows technique, as Sukuna claimed he doesn't want to return to his original face and form to Kenjaku. He wants to make it look like that Megumi has killed his sister, so he falls deeper into despair and gives up on living. Sukuna's existence and plan goes against God's law that Angel mentioned in chapter 199, because the reincarnated sorcerers taking over a body completely eradicates the original person's existence and soul, as if they were never born or had any meaning. Angel called him the fallen or disgraced, which was widespread in that era, as the echelons of Jujutsu call him a monster and despised him. However, Yorozu sure has no clue about how much Sukuna doesn't care about being lonely. All he gives a shit about is only standing on top of everyone else, even asking Gojo why is the hierarchy of the Jujutsu society not based on ability, as he is the true king of the world. It's clear that Sukuna also honed his technique to perfection during the Heian era, as well as during the 1,000 years he existed as a cursed object. This is evident by how, despite not having human life before being incarnated, Choso spent 150 years as a sealed curse object, working on his technique to perfect it. Sukuna demonstrated that pretty well in his fight with Yorozu. As her last resort, she manifested her domain expansion, which by the way is breaking the cardinal sin of anime, I'm just saying. Activating your Bankai, or in this series, domain expansion first, means you lose and die. Everyone knows that, standard anime logic.
He's got a point.
Yorozu's domain is threefold suffering, along with a perfect sphere. Now, did you know a perfect sphere can create infinite pressure since it doesn't have a contact area, meaning that it's a mass that you can't touch and will obliterate you. Her curse technique is sure hit on that sphere, and the moment she activates it, Sukuna will disappear. But he reacts like this.
Oh, scary! Oh, shiver my timbers!
My man Sukuna is the most unbothered dude ever because he just sees Yorozu put up a fuss about still not activating his domain expansion. But she didn't know that with the rotation of Mahoraga's wheel, her time had already run out as he had adapted. Mahoraga is like a titan and ended Yorozu's domain expansion before she can even finish her sentence. Like, that's disrespect to the highest degree. Her idea of love was barbaric. She wanted both users to activate their techniques and curse energy to clash in a strange idea of pure ecstasy. However, the only reason she survived so long was with Sukuna's permission, as he wanted to completely butcher Megumi's will to live by using 10 shadows to kill his sister. Megumi's entire character revolved around Tsumiki. Every decision of his is based on her existence. It's even why he chose to become a sorcerer in the first place and save good people just like her and Yuji Itadori. Now, whilst Megumi's will to fight is definitely destroyed and is hanging on a thin thread, we are yet to see Yuta, Akatsu and Kashimo. Yuta surely sensed an explosive clash just like everyone else did, and we know that he has a huge weapon with him: positive energy. Back in chapter 143, we learned that Yuta can output positive energy when he used it to heal Yuji from literal death after stabbing his heart. Using the same technique, he could revive Tsumiki if her soul is still alive, because our main characters need some reason to fight as the number of L's they have been taking already is embarrassing.
Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
Yuta's appearance can muster an ounce of will in Megumi to keep fighting Sukuna's hostile takeover, since he is bound to find an awakening in the abyss, given that his curse technique itself is based on shadows. Kashimo could provide an opportunity to save Megumi's sister, as he finally would use the technique he has saved for him for over 400 years. After detecting his presence and the rule of moving across colonies now in place, it makes his chance to fight him possible. This is bound to be a banger fight because Sukuna will counter Kashimo with a thunderbolt technique of his own. You didn't know that? Oh, you didn't know he had a thunderbolt technique? Well, watch the video on your screen right now as we uncover the godly techniques of Sukuna that all of you missed out on.